Today we're going to talk about a unique benefit in Massachusetts available to lower income veterans and their dependents that can provide a monthly cash payment, reimbursement of medical expenses including insurance costs and then prescription co-payments, cover past due rent and past due utilities, pay for emergency home repairs, and more. Unfortunately, many veterans never hear about this benefit until they've already used up all of their savings, have used all of their loan opportunities, and have maxed out all of their credit cards. By that time, it's much less effective as a public assistance program. Additionally, many dependents of veterans may never hear about this program at all. And when I say dependents, I'm talking about young children, widows, and widowers. So let's see if we can fix that today. This benefit is commonly referred to as Chapter 115. It's named after its segment in Massachusetts general law. So if you've never heard of it, you're not alone. It's not intuitive to find. It's not called Massachusetts Veteran Financial Assistance. It's called Chapter 115. The only time most people hear about this is when they work with a social services organization, either through their municipal government or a local nonprofit. Unfortunately, the majority of veterans who qualify for this will never even hear about it. And even many of those who are currently using it don't know that it has all of these additional features involved. So it's important to know that it exists, what it does, and how it can be used, even if you don't qualify for it, just to know that it's out there in the event that you do qualify for it later. So let's get into the who, what, when, where, why of it. As with any veterans benefit, the first thing to know, or the first question to ask, is how do you define a veteran? This varies greatly from organization to organization. Some will say anybody with any level of military service, a dishonorable discharge, and 1 day in basic training will qualify you as a veteran. Other one, a very common one, will be 1 day of active service and an other than honorable discharge or greater will qualify you for a veteran's benefit. More traditionally, the definition of a veteran, more in line with public expectations, is that a veteran is somebody with honorable service and in some cases general under honorable conditions. But because these vary greatly from program to program and even various programs within the same organization, it's important to look at that first. For this program, a veteran is defined, generally speaking, as somebody with an honorable or general under honorable conditions discharge. A dependent of that person could be a spouse, a parent, a child, as long as they're a legal dependent and they have documentation to prove that relationship. Now, National Guard and Army Reserve will qualify as a veteran under this definition if they are activated to federal service. Contact your veteran service officer, that way we will get into what that is, if you have more questions on that veteran's eligibility. Now, outside of service, of course, you have to live in Massachusetts. The two other primary qualifications outside of veteran service and outside of living in Massachusetts are income and assets. This program is unique because as a single person, you can have up to $5,000 in your bank account and still qualify for this program. As a married couple, you can have $9,800 in the bank and qualify for this program. So that's pretty good. You can use this, you can start using this before you drain all of your personal resources. Now, from the income point of view, income is measured by month, not annually, right? So you can use this program for a month or two and then get off it, right? So it can be a short-term stopgap. Income levels generally fall around 200% of the federal poverty level. So for a single person household, that's about $2,100 a month in gross income. For a two-person household, that's about $2,800. Benefits for this program generally start around that 200% federal poverty level rate. And we're going to take a look to see if you can get an estimate on what benefit, if any, you would qualify for here in just a second. Based on your income, if you are around that 200% federal poverty level, you may qualify for the reimbursement of medical expenses, such as co-payments, insurance premiums, and things along those lines. The more your income decreases, then you start entering the realm of cash benefits, some heating assistance, some rental assistance, and other things, depending on on your personal situation. Now, through observation, who I've seen use this program most are seniors living on a fixed income, seniors being the veteran themselves or their widow or widower, members of the homeless population, whether they're living in a shelter or on the street or in their car, and those who are unemployed or underemployed, either long-term or short-term. Since this benefit calculates from month to month, if you are in a situation where, let's say you're a college student and you're receiving the GI Bill, when you're not going to school, let's say you have no classes that you can take throughout the summer, you're not going to be receiving GI Bill payments. This can supplement your income to a small degree through those breaks. Granted, you have to meet all of the other criteria. If you are in an accident and you're out of work for a month or two and you have no income coming in, this can help supplement that income for a month or two, right? So it's not something that you have to use for a whole year. It's not something that you have to stay on long term. It's something that can be used for a couple of months as you need it. Now, you apply for this program through your local municipal veteran service officer. If you don't know, every town and city in Massachusetts has access to a local veteran services officer, and they can most often be located in your local city or town hall or at your local senior center. You want to check with your specific town to see where they are. Now, veteran services offices vary greatly from town to town. If you live in a place with a high population density, you might find a whole veteran services team working out of City Hall that's available during regular working hours that can do a variety of tasks. If you work in a town or you live in a town with a small population density, that might change considerably. You might find that your veteran services officer only works a couple of hours a week or even a couple of hours a month. Some towns have districts where they share a veteran services officer that are all connected. So, based on all of this, to access your veteran services officer, you can usually find them online, and we'll see that when we check our estimate here in just a second. You can usually find their contact information online. When you fill out your application, you're going to need some paperwork with you, and so you'll want to work directly with your veteran services officer to figure out what paperwork you're going to need based on your living situation. So one thing that comes to mind that you'll definitely need is your DD-214 showing your nature of discharge. Another thing that you may need is, let's say you're going in there and you're saying that you pay X amount in rent every month, you'll need a copy of your rental agreement. If you have a dependent, you'll need a copy of that birth certificate. If you are the widow of a veteran, for example, you'll need the veteran's discharge paperwork plus the death certificate plus your marriage certificate. Work with your VSO on that. Make sure you have all the documentation, the listing of all the documentation you'll need to apply. It is worth it. It is worth it if you are in that low income situation. So let's take a look online. We're going to go to massvetben.org to get an estimate of that. And then after that, we're going to take a look at the regulation that governs Chapter 115. And that's called 108 CMR, 108 CMR. You can go online, do a search for it, you can read the whole thing, and if you're receiving the benefit, I would recommend it. If you're interested in the benefit, I would recommend it. It's not a terribly long read. It's not a page turner, but it's not a terribly long read, and it will clue you into all those benefits that you would qualify for if you are eligible for this benefit. Okay, let's take a look at massvetben.org and see how that estimate calculation works.
Okay, I'm at my laptop and the microphone probably sounds quite a bit different, but it's still me. And we are here at massvetben.org, right? And when you log into massvetben.org, you're going to find the MassVet Benefit Calculator, and that's where we get an estimate on whether we would likely qualify and about what the benefit may be for our Chapter 115. So let's take a look at what we find. On the home page, you get some general information about the site, update on Chapter 115 with COVID, etc. But what we're really interested in is this calculator. So let's go on there and get our estimate. Now, the information I put in here will partly be honest and partly be false because it's my private information, and I suggest that you also keep your information private to yourself. So let's take a look at what these questions are going to be. So you are now ready to use the Mass Vet Benefit Calculator, and you can click on the question icon on the left of each card for more information. It was created by Veterans Legal Clinic at the Legal Services Center of Harvard Law School and has no affiliation with the Massachusetts Department of Veteran Services or any town or city Veteran Services officer. Any eligibility assessments or benefit amounts indicated by the calculator are simply estimates and do not constitute guarantees. Okay, that's important to note. This does not say you do qualify. It says based on the information that you provided, which is unverified, you will likely qualify for this benefit. But then you need to go to your veteran service officer and complete the application and go through the process. So, are you a veteran or a dependent? I am. What military branch were you in? The Army. Did I serve for more than 180 days? I did. What was my most recent discharge status? It was honorable. Do I live in Massachusetts? I do. And am I married? Yes, I am. Do I live with my spouse? Yes, I do. Do I have any dependent children? Yes, I have one dependent child left. Now, the following section will ask you several questions about income from different sources, such as jobs, retirement, and benefits. Please note that the following do not count as income: food stamps, SNAP benefits, Massachusetts Welcome Home Bonus, annuity paid by Massachusetts DVS, and we will cover the Welcome Home Bonus and the annuity in a separate video. Keep your eyes out for that. Earned income for children attending high school or college, payments made under the Agent Orange Settlement Fund. Do you receive any income from working for a job? Do not include money from a benefit program or retirement. I do receive money from working for a job, and I recently got a raise, so I am now making $105 per week. Does your spouse receive income from working for a job? Yes, she does. She gets $210 per week. And do I receive any VA benefits, including disability compensation, pension, or survivor benefits? Yes. My monthly VA benefits income is $100 per month. Does your spouse receive VA benefits? No, she does not. Do you receive unemployment, workers' comp, sick leave, long-term disability? No, I do not. Does my spouse? No, she does not. Do we receive any monthly income from rental property? No, we do not. Do you get any monthly income from Social Security Administration, including Social Security disability insurance, supplemental security income, or retirement income? No, we do not. Does your spouse? No, she does not. Some disability or retirement benefits can impact your eligibility for Chapter 115 benefits. Do you receive SSRI, SSDI, SSI, a federal, state, county, city, or town pension, a VA non-service connected pension, or survivor's pension? Select yes if you receive any of the above, and I do not. Does my spouse? No, she does not. And do we receive and pay for Medicare Part B out of Social Security? No, we do not. Does your spouse receive medical care Part B out of Social Security? No. Do we have more than $9,800 in assets? No, we do not. Do you own your own home, including paying a mortgage on a home? Yes. Do you pay a mortgage? Yes. How much is your mortgage? $500,000. Again, this information is not necessarily accurate. We're just having some fun. Are heating costs included in your monthly rent, or do you pay for heat separately? I pay for heat. You've reached the end of the calculator. Please continue to check your eligibility. And based on the information that I put in there, I would be eligible for Chapter 115 benefits, and that monthly benefit would be about 12 to 1300 a month. That's just an estimate. So I do want to call your attention to the fact that I put in an outrageous mortgage amount. Uh, there is a limit on the rental and mortgage assistance amount, and it's very low, and it's probably less than you are paying for your rent or a mortgage. So be aware of that. Whether you're paying $1,000 a month in rent or you're paying $100,000 a month in rent, it won't change that cap number. There is a maximum amount. Talk to your veteran service officer for more details on that. Now we can go to learn more. As your local veteran service officer can assist you with your Chapter 115 benefits application. Would you like to find your VSO? Yes, I would. What town do you currently live in? And I'm just going to pick the first one, Abington. Next. And that gives me information on where my veteran services officer is and some contact information. Now, to say I did get this, how would you like to receive your estimate and information about applying for Chapter 115? I did select email. I did that yesterday, the day prior to making this video. I still haven't had any email information, so I don't know if that part is functioning or not. But I would recommend that you call your veteran service officer, go to your town or city's website, find an email or contact information, and try to utilize those methods. If your town or city hall is open to visitors, it might also be a good idea just to check in if you can't reach them by phone or email. And if you have problems contacting them, contact the Massachusetts Department of Veteran Services. Tell them that you'd like to file an application for Chapter 115 and can't reach your local veteran service officer, and they will give you further guidance. Oftentimes, they'll arrange a meeting between you and that veteran service officer, or they'll refer you to a veteran service officer in a nearby town.
Now we're going to take a quick look at 108 CMR Section 7, and we're going to take a look at those other pieces of this outside of the monthly check that may be of interest, may be helpful to you. One of the things we're going to look at is mortgage arrears and rental arrears and utility arrears, and we're going to see what that has to say.
So here we are, and I did a search for 108 CMR and 108 Code of Massachusetts Regulation, and that's basically the rules that Chapter 115 has to play by, right? What can be offered, what are the application procedures, what are the eligibility requirements, and so on. If you want to go into good detail about what is in this benefit, this is where you look, right? So let's take a look at 108 CMR. Again, I just searched for 108 CMR, and there's a whole bunch of results that will come up, right? But that first result will bring me to the Massachusetts Law Library, and you can see that the different sections are divided up here, and they're relatively small. So if I go to alternative sources of income, let's say, and I want to give that a read, here we go. We got 6.01 through 6.04, and that's what, 6 pages, not even five, four and a quarter pages, right? So there's not a lot to read, and I would encourage you, if you are receiving the benefit, administering the benefit, or anything else, especially if you're administering the benefit, read this. Read this a lot. Refer to this all the time. But if you are receiving the benefit, I would give it a read here and there to know what's included in your benefit. So in that, I want to refer you over to 108 CMR Section 7, payments to applicants in special circumstances. And what this does is it authorizes the payment of certain things given certain criteria in special situations. And a couple of those are of note to several people who find themselves in a temporary hardship situation, right? And one of those is Section .07, services to prevent homelessness, that describes the payment of mortgage and rental arrearages, right? Now, there are a bunch of conditions on here, and there are limits to uh, how often it can pay, but it's good to know that these are in here. If that's your situation, I would take a look at that. This is one of those things that a lot of people who are receiving the benefit don't even know is part of their benefit, right? Which can be a real shame. Same thing happens with utility arrearages, right? And the beauty of how this works is, as I said earlier in this video, many people will not even be aware that this benefit exists, right? So, if I were to lose my job today, I would be right on for a job hunt, but I would want to retain what I could uh, during that time and not incur too much debt, because if it takes a lot longer than I expect, as time goes by, my situation is going to be exponentially worse, exponentially worse, exponentially worse. So if I've already drained my savings and I've taken out loans and I've maxed out my credit cards and now I don't know what else to do, now I'm in a situation where I don't have any resource to pull from, and that might be the time that I become aware that this thing even exists, right? So now I'm under eviction. My electricity or my heat is shut off or going to be shut off. It would be a real big help to get back to square one, and that's what this can do, with the expectation that a lot of people are going to be in that situation to begin with, right? So it's a great addition to this. It's not something that's very often spoken of, but it helps to make the program effective where it otherwise wouldn't be. Because if you're trying to pay back $6,000 in rent based off of $1,400 monthly payment, what I think was our estimate, that's just not going to happen, right? So yeah, you got to get moving. You got to get that income figured out, or you have to make some really quick quality of life adjustments. But this can help you give a little bit of wiggle room, so you're not entering into these huge debt and legal obligations um, while you're trying to get yourself squared away at the same time. So this also covers home repairs, and the home repairs part always reminds me of this one person who was living in my town that I was unaware of. I do not know every one of the thousands of people who live in my town, but I did get a phone call from a concerned family member about grandpa, right? And basically, so I went and knocked on the door just to see what there was to see. And his is an elderly gentleman. His electricity was off. He was heating um, tea through a little campfire he rigged up in the kitchen, and he was using that to keep warm, and he refused to apply for any sort of benefit because in his mind other people needed it more, right? And that really kind of opened my eyes to a few things. One is, yeah, there is that level of need out there, and two, there is that level of selfless service out there, the belief that other people need it more. And that really made me consider that if you qualify for it, look at these programs objectively, do your research and you make your own decision. Nobody's going to twist your arms to apply for one of these programs or not. But don't let external factors be what prevents you from making the application. If you objectively apply, meaning objectively qualify for one of these programs, the program is designed for you. Right? Don't put much more thought into it. Now, you still choose whether you're going to use that program or not, but don't think that other people need it more. The reality behind that is that if people aren't using these programs because everybody thinks that everybody else needs it more than them, the program is going to go away because there's no demand for that, right? And only certain programs continue to function based on no demand, right? many of the other programs go away, budgets get reduced, and then all of a sudden this need is found. So the best way you can continue programs is to use them, right? You're really not taking away. If you look at the supply and demand of it all, you're actually making more of it available to more people when you use it. And the less people that use it, the less of it will be available in the future. So just keep that in mind. But if for chapter 115, if this is something that you're looking at, I highly recommend you take a gander at 108 CMR, look through the different sections, see what is in there, especially if you're already receiving it. I almost I almost guarantee because I think most people will find things in here that they never knew were even in there that they would find helpful. So that's going to wrap up this video. We'll do a quick closeout, and I hope you get something out of this, but really look at 108 CMR. I think you'll find it to be helpful.
All right, thanks for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope this gave you some information. Please don't keep this information to yourself. If you know somebody who would benefit from this, share it. The thing about programs, the thing about all programs, is it works on supply and demand. And I know that we, as veterans, can be a stubborn group of people. And so we definitely don't like asking for help, right? There's a lot of us out there who will just never do it because we feel like we might be taking it away from somebody else. It's important to note that these programs work on supply and demand. If there's no demand for it, there's going to be no supply left, right? So if you qualify for one of these programs, definitely take a look at it. If it can be helpful to you, really consider applying for it, even if you don't feel that you need it as much as somebody else might, right? If you're not using it, chances are there's a whole bunch of other people who aren't using it, and that really makes it look like it's going to go away, right? Thanks for joining us today. Hope to talk to you again soon.